Darkcast Network. Welcome to the dark side of podcasting.
Is Mothman really a supernatural force predicting impending doom? Did Apollo 11 really land on the moon? Did you find out if that was a cult living just 2 doors down that you waved to every single day when you got your mail? If these are things that you ponder when you should be sleeping, then I would like to welcome you to Creepy Confidential. I'm your host, Noelle, your resident weirdo Wisconsinite. I open case files on my favorite cryptids, cults, conspiracies, and other worldly creepy, bringing you new cases, live broadcasts, and local lore. Some stories have been lost with time. Others are perhaps still happening today in your local communities, right under your very creepy noses. So get ready, creeps. It's Creepy Confidential.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Motherfucker, he's on his.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Mountain Murders. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Before we got started, I said this was a really sad case, and you were like, well, why? I mean, dude, it's true crime.
Work some rainbows and unicorns in there somewhere.
I don't have any rainbows or unicorns for you.
Okay.
I do have some marshmallows. I can throw them at you. Would you like that?
I don't care for mallow, so
well,
I don't want to eat them.
Then I guess you're just shit out of luck all around today.
Okay. So it's going to be a little sad.
It is a sad case. I am trying to work on a case maybe for next week. It's just a lot of information, and it's kind of wild and wacky and funny. So we can have a departure, but I just haven't gotten finished with everything.
See, and that's unfortunate because I'm in a wild, wacky, funny mood.
Well, you know what you can do is maybe be more of an active participant in the podcast.
Yeah.
You can read, you can research, and you can write an episode, Dylan.
Oh, no, I'll just stick with...
You can lead us.
I'm just going to do sad this week, and I'm going to do wild and wacky next week.
Okay.
Whatever my mommy tells me to do.
Why do you have to make everything gross?
All right, let's move on.
Why you have to make
That's not gross.
It's kind of gross. It grosses me out.
Okay.
Why you got to make everything gross?
Okay.
Well, I was waiting for an answer. I think the listeners would like to know why you feel like you need to make everything gross.
Oh, I don't... I felt like that was romantic. I'm being romantic.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Yeah,
My resources for today, let me go ahead and bring those up here. The Snake and the Spider, a book written by Karen Kingsbury. We also have articles, the Tampa Tribune, and heavily relying on the Orlando Sentinel, and also some case docs.
Okay.
Now, Dylan, as I mentioned, this is a sad story.
All right.
It's very sad. Are you ready to get started?
I am. I cannot wait.
We are traveling a little further south than the Appalachian Mountains, but you know what? It's summertime. A lot of folks are taking vacations and traveling, so I felt like this might be an appropriate seasonal story.
So Mountain Murders is going on a road trip.
Grab your sunscreen. You have some shades.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I'm ready.
Let's hit it. Okay, Dylan, we're going all the way back to August 12th of 1978.
Oh, wow.
You were just a little tot then.
No, I was months old.
Probably peeing yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Little diaper.
I was a very pissy baby.
I can tell. Were you a little fat baby?
I think so.
With a big head?
A huge head.
A little big-headed fat baby? Oh.
Yeah, I couldn't set up till I was like 9 years old.
He's barely set up now. What are you talking about? On August 12th, 1978, two best friends, 17-year-old Jim Boucher and 19-year-old Daryl Barber, were departing Metamora, Michigan for their dream vacation. A week in the Florida sunshine.
And that is a dream vacation for many people, right?
I would not turn a vacation down right now. Especially if it was like Key West or something.
Oh, I have to go to Key West.
I'm there. Dude, I love it. It's beautiful. Jim's mother, Faye, prepared a French toast breakfast for her son. He was really excited about leaving their small town, planning to spend a few days at Daytona Beach, and then they were going to visit Disney World in Orlando. The boys had been planning the trip for months. Faye knew her son was super excited, like he'd never been this excited before. Faye, the mother of 5, helped her son gather a few items that he needed for the trip. I mean, let's be honest, she's helping him pack.
Yeah, can we all agree that if you have French toast for breakfast, it just seems like you're going to have a fancy day.
It's going to be a good day.
It's going to be a good day.
I mean, who eats French toast and then has a bad day?
Nobody.
It's impossible. Impossible. She suggested that Jim invite Daryl to join them for breakfast. Faye planned to assist Jim in packing for the trip afterwards. So she's kind of like telling him, hey, you know, your jeans are in the dryer. You might want to grab those. Helping her son get ready for a trip. Living in Metamora, Jim had been sheltered from the outside world. Neither Daryl nor Jim had ever been away from home alone without parental supervision. Faye hoped the trip would help her son feel independent. Lately, Jim had wanted nothing more than to be treated like an adult. He had even grown a mustache, much to his mother's annoyance.
And I think it's important as people get older, you know, you're finishing up school and things like that. It's important to have these kind of milestone moments, you know, when you go on your first trip alone and things like that. I think it's a good thing.
I kind of understand this whole mustache thing because my son is starting to sprout a lot of facial hair. And I suggest, you know, you could always shave that. And he's like, nope.
That's
I'm
right.
not really sure what he's doing right now.
He's not either. He's figuring it out.
He might want a beard, but I don't believe he's going to be able to grow a beard.
No, he's definitely in the peach fuzz stage.
But he's just enjoying having those little chin hairs.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
They start out in singles.
They do. Well, Faye figured, you know, what's the harm if he wants this little mustache? But also, you know, she told her son there's really no rush to grow up too fast. You're only 17 after all. So, you know, try to remain youthful and innocent as long as you can, right? Things kind of go downhill from there.
That's the truth.
Yet in the 1970s, we have to discuss, you know, society viewed age differently back then. I believe that by today's standards, we see 18-year-olds, though legally adults, as kids.
Right.
Adulthood came earlier back then. I mean, by 18, many young people were already working full-time, married, or they were even parents. The word teenager didn't become widely used until the 1940s. Before that, society viewed them as simply children and then adults. Into the early 20th century, 18-year-olds were treated as adults. They were expected to serve in the military. I mean, we had World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. They were expected to take on adult responsibilities. Many dropped out of high school to go to work and raise families. The social movements of the 1950s really marked the emergence of teenagers as a concept.
I did not realize it was that late.
Yeah, actually, I wrote a paper on this once, the youth movements of the 1950s and how it really impacted, you know, teenagers and kind of created this whole demographic that was once ignored.
So basically you were a kid until you were 18 and then you were just an adult. Is that right?
Well, yeah, back in the day.
Okay.
Yeah. With things like Elvis and sock hops, teenagers became recognized as a social group. High school attendance rose during this time, and more young people began delaying work, marriage, and parenthood. It was only in 1971 that 18-year-olds were allowed to vote. By the early 1980s, teenagers were portrayed as naive and rebellious. Today, we see legal adults treated as kind of this in-between, caught between youth and adulthood. They can join the military, be tried as adults, but they can't drink, rent a car, or really even afford housing.
And see, I've always I've always found that strange, right? It's one or the other has to change, in my opinion, in that situation. Either if I can't responsibly drink a beer or make that choice, and now it's even you can't buy a pack of smokes, which, cigarettes are going the way of the dinosaur anyway, then how in the world can I be sent off to war? Or the most important civic function, in my opinion, voting. How can I make a informed, calibrated decision to on what candidate I want?
I mean, these are points that have been discussed over time, and I don't have the answers for you, Dylan. Like Jim, Daryl had 4 siblings and lived a few houses down the road from the Boucher family. For the past year, he had been working as a machinist at Metamora Tool Company. He would be using his first paid vacation days on this trip.
Oh, and that's
how exciting.
Such a good feeling. It came many years later in my life to get my first paid because I worked for a small business for many years when I was younger. Of course, no benefits or anything. Well, there are benefits, just not paid vacation. That first time that you're not at work, but you're getting paid and you're getting to relax and stuff, is so awesome. But what happened to me my very first time is they forgot to input my vacation days. So my check hit and it was like way less than it should have been. And I was, I had to wait like
scrambling. Scrambling.
Yeah, scrambling around.
Most working people would be scrambling.
I was like, that's just my luck.
It is just your luck.
To get your first paid vacation and not get paid for it.
Faye helped gather the right clothes for the Florida trip, and Jim mentioned that he had plenty of space for souvenirs in this big suitcase. So a few months earlier, Jim had won a statewide bowling tournament and had received a check for $10,000.
Damn. That's a chunk of change.
It is, especially in 78.
Especially for someone so young.
He decided to take $400 for himself and set aside the rest as a payment for a brand new 1979 Camaro that he had ordered.
That probably paid the car off.
As they loaded up Daryl's 1972 Chevy Nova, the boys said goodbye to the Boucher family. Jim's little brother John had been promised a crab, like a pet crab. So he was just like over the moon about this. And, this is a little boy who worships his big brother Jim and just could not stop talking about the idea that his brother was going to bring him a pet crab from Florida.
Oh, I bet.
It sounds really cute. Jim assured his mother, he said, "Don't worry, Mom, we'll be fine." But she couldn't help but worry a little. That's what parents do.
Could you imagine back then, cars have kind of lost their heart and soul nowadays for the most part. But back then, all the regular cars were like Camaros.
They had such style.
And Novas and all the, Chargers.
Like the interior was cool color, like that matched the paint. And
yeah, and even the, what you consider old people cars had so much style and comfort.
What's an old people car?
Well, like a Lincoln Town Car. Or I guess back then it was a Lincoln Continental maybe. You said your grandmother had one of those.
She did.
And you were describing that burgundy Continental with burgundy interior.
It's like velour burgundy.
It's got like the tire rounds up into the trunk.
Or it might have been leather. I can't even remember. But it was like the interior matched the exterior. And it was,
I could totally picture this car.
Oh, yeah.
But all the cars had so much style and they all had big engines and fun to drive. So I bet it was so awesome.
She couldn't help but worry, as I mentioned a little bit. I think most parents would worry if they were sending their children off on a trip for the first time, alone, unchaperoned.
Well, yeah, you're worried about what they might get into, if they can make all the right decisions.
Well, yeah, and so his parents are very worried. I mean, this is the first time that they've been away. The boys packed sandwiches for the trip and planned to only stop for gas because it was a long drive from Michigan to Florida. Jim had been dating a girl named Jamie for 4 months and wished she could have joined them, but he knew that wouldn't be acceptable. Jamie had suggested that the boys go to Daytona Beach. She had gone there for spring break with a friend and returned with a great tan and lots of enthusiasm. Jamie told Jim that almost everyone was their age. Teenagers run the place.
Gosh.
According to Jamie.
That must be like a 16-hour drive or more. That's a very long drive.
She also described the white sand and the warm waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Jim talked to Daryl about the idea. Daryl had been to Florida once before with his parents, but it didn't take long for the boys to realize that Florida was like their dream destination. Also, Daryl enjoyed the idea that he was earning a week's pay while having fun on vacation. Like, that was the part it seems like he was really happy about. Around 10:15 p.m., Faye began to worry. The Bouchers were devout Christians, so Faye spent the next 15 minutes or so praying for the boys' safe arrival and phone call. Of course, she was thrilled when the phone rang. Jim told his mother they had arrived in Florida safely. He said they went down to the beach first before calling home. That's why it took a few minutes. Jim told his parents that he had also found a crab. He said, "So, can you tell John I'm bringing him the crab I promised, okay?"
Gosh, you went straight down there and found the crab.
Found a crab on the beach. Jim told his parents they were planning to drive down to the Strip, find a motel, and settle in. Jim promised to stay in touch over the next couple of days. With the boys safely at Daytona Beach, Faye felt there was really nothing else to worry about. Daryl wanted to find a cheap room because he had brought less money than his friend. Jim's request was that it be oceanside, so they compromised on the Thunderbird Motel. The boys paid cash for a one-night stay in room 109. The room had a balcony overlooking the beach, and they could see the boardwalk. By now, it's about 11 p.m., and the boys decided to walk down to the beach. A major attraction in Daytona Beach was the promise of parties.
Yeah.
Jim's girlfriend had told him there were just parties everywhere.
Yeah,
Young people just partying, hotels,
and the kids
beach parties.
run the local government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The mayor's 12.
That's right. Come to order. Come to order. It's a meeting of the Teenage Council.
Daryl was eager to be invited to one of these parties, while Jim wanted to soak up the atmosphere. I mean, it was very different from Metamora, Michigan. While they're sitting on the beach, the boys were approached by another young man. He lit up a joint and told the boys to relax. Then he offered them a chance to go to a great party up the beach. Jim and Daryl agreed to go.
That's exactly what they've been looking for, right?
That's what they've been looking for. Now I have to ask you, Dylan, if some guy just comes up to you and says, "Hey, there's a party, you want to go?" Are you going to go?
I don't know. I mean, probably not. I guess it just depends on what mood I'm in and my circumstance.
Okay.
Would you go?
I don't know.
If you were with a couple of friends, a couple of girlfriends?
I might be a little hesitant.
Now, see, I know from being a really sensitive guy, some people call me a modern-day feminist, an ally to women, if you will, that through a woman's lens, you'd have to view that quite differently. A woman and her, girlfriends. She'd have to consider a lot more things in that invitation than me being a incredibly well-built man, right?
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I was always really cautious as a young person.
I was fairly cautious.
So I think I would have probably rejected, because I'm here to have fun with my friends.
Right.
I don't know you.
Yeah.
Maybe if we've hung out with you for a few days and then you invite us, maybe, but
just off the rip, that'd be a little
not.
strange.
No, that was never really my kind of thing.
I agree, because like all the kind of the wild and crazy partying I did, if you will, when I was younger, I just did by myself. Is that
You
weird?
partied by yourself?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, me and a couple close friends, I wasn't much on
Well, I mean, I even felt uncomfortable when I would tag along with a group of friends
right.
that were friends with the people hosting the party, and they're like, "No, it's fine, come on down." And I maybe peripherally knew the people, but not super well. I would even be a little, I don't know. I'd always be like, "Well, I'll drive my own car.
So you can be out.
I'll meet you there or something." Yeah, or I'll follow you, because I wanted to have an escape plan.
You
if I
always had
needed
an
one.
exit plan?
Yeah. After a few days without any word from Daryl and Jim, their families grew worried. They didn't have a fixed schedule for contact, but their parents assumed they would check in periodically. Right? I mean, you think your kid's probably going to call you at least every other day, if not every day.
Well, yeah.
To say, "Hey, we're good."
Yeah, and you're not getting that 24/7 update that we're kind of used to nowadays.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, and this is back in the day when there were no texts, there weren't cell phones. You had to make a phone call to check in with someone. Couldn't shoot them an email.
No, or you had to wait for them to call you, or you catch them in their hotel room if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So we kind of take for granted how easily it is nowadays to communicate.
And I think there's pros and cons to that. that concept, honestly.
I think people live in the moment more, like when you're not in constant contact.
Yeah.
Right? By Tuesday, Faye contacted Daryl's mother to ask if she had heard anything. Were the boys in trouble? I mentioned before that Daryl was the youngest of 5, and so his mother was a little less worried than she had been, like, with her first child. I've always heard that, with your first kid, you're super protective, and then
Right.
by the time you have, like, the third or fourth or something, you're just like,
Yeah, well, whatever.
okay, don't run with scissors, or I don't care.
No, it's the pacifier story. You know, when they're your first kid, they drop the pacifier, you boil it, you got rubber gloves, it's sanitized, all that stuff, and then you finally get it back to the kid. Third, fourth kid, you just pick it up, blow it off, make sure it doesn't have hair
Wipe
on
it off out of the sandbox and put it in the kid's
wipe it
mouth.
off on your shirt and pop it right back in their mouth.
Yeah. Well, she told Faye that the boys were probably just having so much fun they didn't bother to call. The Bouchers waited a few more days, and by the time Friday rolled around, they were terrified. The boys were supposed to be home by 8 p.m. on Saturday night. When they were 2 hours late, Faye wanted to call someone. Daryl's parents were now extremely worried. Their son was dependable, and they hadn't heard from him all week. The families weren't sure who to call. The Metamora police didn't really have jurisdiction, like outside of the town, outside of, the city. So if they were somewhere else in Michigan, like, that wasn't going to be helpful. But they had no idea. Were the boys on their way to Michigan? Were they still in Florida? Were they driving? Maybe they were in Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, had car trouble. Like,
Well,
they
yeah.
really had no idea, like, where they could be.
No, that's such a long distance. I mean, that's almost comparable from, heading from the East Coast out towards the West Coast. I know you wouldn't make it all the way, but that's a very long trip, many hundreds of miles. And you have no idea where they are or where they might be. And on top of that, you haven't heard from them all week long, which that alone would be very worrisome.
Days went by, and that turned into weeks. The families reached out to local police, state patrolmen, and even the governor's office. There was a frightening lack of information. No one had seen the boys, no one knew where they had gone, and no one knew where they might be. The only connection to the boys was through Jim's traveler's checks. If they had been cashed, the bank said they would appear at a clearinghouse. Some of the checks had already been cleared. One check was cashed in Daytona Beach, another in Defuniak Springs, and a third at the North Beach Street Trailer Park.
Damn. And these are all in Florida, right?
Yes, but
Okay.
2 more checks were cashed in Mississippi. Some of the checks were still outstanding and had not cleared. A Michigan state officer spent hours making phone calls, but he was getting nowhere. According to the phone bill, the boys had called from Ormond Beach, not Daytona, but it is the first beach as you drive toward Daytona, so it was easy to speculate that the boys just didn't know.
That they weren't quite in Daytona.
Right. They were just like, oh, wow, it's a beach. We must be here, kind of thing. None of the businesses that received the checks remembered the boys. The officer concluded something had happened to them. Otherwise, they would have called by now. He also believes someone else had cashed those traveler's checks, not Jim.
Oh.
Just the nature of some of them. Like, why would these boys give a check to a trailer park?
No, that's very strange.
Right?
Because the sole purpose of traveler's checks is to securely and safely be able to get other amounts of cash as you're traveling, right? Instead of having a big wad of cash on you.
He had, of course, reached out to the Daytona police, but when he had tried to get a update or make a follow-up call, he could tell that the missing persons officer assigned to this case didn't take it very seriously. The Daytona officer explained, he saw teenagers go missing from Daytona Beach all the time. It was this vacation spot. They would go party, not call home, meet a boy, meet a girl, hook up, whatever.
Right. Or leave town, leave their friends and go back home and
go,
not tell anybody.
Yeah, or we're going to go to Fort Lauderdale or Miami or Tampa or whatever. So, it was not uncommon for kids to go missing and then reappear. This was not unusual. And we'll also get into talking about discussing the number of missing persons cases, because there are a lot. Now, when 2 months had passed without any progress from Michigan or Florida law enforcement, the families began to lose hope. I can't even fathom the feelings you would have. 2 months go by and you have no idea where your child is.
Yeah, and from, I'm sure at this point, what they can tell or what they've been told by law enforcement there in Michigan, no one's even taking it seriously. No one where they were at or where they went missing, no one's even like looking for them.
I start to panic if my kid's 10 minutes late.
Right.
I mean, but days, weeks,
months.
No word. Oh my gosh. Frustrated with the lack of information gathered by police, a private detective from Detroit named James Bird was hired. Bird decided to subcontract this out to a Florida private eye named Bob Brown and hired him to find the boys. And this guy Bird was kind of running a scheme. Like for every $4 he was paid, he kept $3 and paid the Florida detective $1.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good scheme.
Bob Brown, now he's like a really good PI. Like he's kind of known by law enforcement. A lot of people, hire him. He's really good at his job. And he knew Daytona Beach was one of the most dangerous cities in the U.S. at the time. He had investigated several cases in that area and knew firsthand the kinds of people who hung out there. Teen girls addicted to drugs who turned to prostitution. There were teenage boys who got involved with biker gangs and crime. Drugs were rampant. I mean, he didn't think this was a suitable place for young people. He didn't allow his own kids, his own teenagers, to go to Daytona Beach. Bob concluded that both teens were equally naive and trusting of people they met. Neither boy could recognize the potential dangers or individuals who might wish them harm. Jim and Daryl had been exposed to alcohol and marijuana, of course, while they were in high school, but they had chosen not to use those drugs or try them. The boys probably wouldn't have a problem with other people using substances, so it was likely if they did attend a party where drugs were present, they wouldn't be freaked out.
Right. They would just try to be cool, right?
Right, yeah. Bob believed something terrible had happened to the boys. Daytona had I would say quite a number of rapes, robberies, murders at this time, and there were also, as I mentioned, a large number of missing persons cases. Officer Mickelson from the Daytona PD was assigned to the boys' case. Now, he has to work a number of cases, like solving crimes, larceny, theft.
He's not exclusively a missing person.
No, not at all. But each police officer was assigned missing persons cases on top of their regular workload. And this guy had over 100 cases, mostly involving teenage boys.
Damn.
Many teens came to the area to run away. There were also flop houses and drugs that ensnared them. An article published stated, quote, "The FBI says you are more likely to be victim of a crime in Daytona Beach than almost any other metropolitan area of the country. In fact, you have a greater chance of being a crime victim here than in New York City."
Damn.
Apparently Daytona in the 70s was a wild and crazy place, Dylan.
Sounds like it's off the chain.
Yeah.
Well, and when you have a destination spot like that, transient populations coming in and out, only spending a couple of few days there, a lot of this kind of goes along with an area like that to some degree. You know what I mean? You have people waiting to exploit them, criminals, knowing that people come down there wide-eyed, seeing the beach maybe for the first time and all that.
I think all vacation spots have a seedy underbelly.
It's true.
Drugs, criminals waiting to take advantage.
Well, yeah,
tourists.
A lot of times it's just, I want to provide the drugs to the tourists that come here, not knowing anybody to buy drugs from.
Since Jim had worked at Kmart, the K-Liner, a national newspaper for and about Kmart employees, ran a story on its front page of the October issue. The article, entitled "Jim's Missing," was sent to every Kmart in the nation. An East Birmingham, Alabama manager posted the article on a bulletin board, And a week later, a woman named Margie Barrett said she recognized Jim's picture. She had hired him to do some farm work in August. However, this lead did not pan out, but the boy hired did resemble Jim. Okay. So it was an honest mistake because they did, I guess, look, similar. Missing posters were created and a $500 reward was offered for Jim and Daryl. Bob went around the beach handing out flyers and talking to teenagers about the boys. The chance of a $500 reward caught most of their attention, and they agreed to keep an eye out for Jim and Daryl. Bob learned that the morgue had 15 John Does and checked each one that matched the descriptions of Jim and Daryl. His next move was to search the flop houses. So usually a room was rented to one person in these houses who then allowed like maybe 6 or 7 other people to stay there, and they might split the bills. So they were just paying a few dollars a piece.
And everybody's just flopping around.
I guess so. Partying. It's like a party pad.
You just walk in and fall out.
Strangers crash. Yeah, pretty much.
There's mattresses on the floor.
Yeah, you wake up and there's like teens all over the floor sleeping. You don't know who they are.
I've never, ever experienced anything like that.
It became a place where random people crashed. These houses were known for their 24-hour parties and sex orgies.
Ew.
Why you say ew?
Why, just when even the term flop house makes my skin crawl, kind of.
You've never been to a sex orgy at a flop house?
No.
Man, don't knock it till you try it.
And you haven't been to a sex orgy at a flop house either.
How do you know?
And I've got to imagine that
you don't know me.
The bathrooms, the setup's probably not a lot of hygiene involved, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, you know me too well. No.
You could taste everybody in that room when you walk in.
No orgy for me. No thanks. It's just too many fluids and yeah. The Bouchers had already spent $20,000 to hire the private investigator in Detroit, but they learned they were going to need another $10,000 because Bob in Florida, he's, printing up posters. He's trying to pay informants to give up information and that kind of thing.
So wait a second. This investigator in Michigan has kept 15,000 of 20.
Yeah.
And sent 5
and is telling the family, I'm going to have 10 more.
Come on. This guy's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he is.
He can't front some of that money to cover some of this, call some of these expenses.
He's kind of a piece of shit.
And he's not even doing any work.
Well, the family had used all of their savings and had listed a piece of land with a real estate company. They hadn't expected the cost of hiring a private investigator, but of course they needed answers. They wanted answers. As days went by, the families faced the harsh reality that their sons might be dead. So after weeks of investigation, Bob theorized that whatever happened to the boys occurred shortly after their arrival. Otherwise, something would have turned up by now. He had searched motels, gas stations. He'd been all over Daytona, had handed out flyers, had talked to numerous people. Like, no one has seen hiding her hair of these boys. So now it was time for him to physically visit the locations where the traveler's checks had been cashed, which would probably have been like the first thing I did, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, that seems like a pretty good lead to me.
Yeah. Now, the trailer park, as I mentioned, seemed like the strangest place where 2 out-of-town visitors would cash a check. The owner had never rented to anyone named James Boucher. The owner's wife, with her payment record book, remembered the check being used, and she said, quote, "Got that check from Snake."
What?
From the Snake.
From Snake?
From Snake.
In the trailer park.
Snake in the trailer park. Why I feel like that's where you would find a man named Snake.
Well, it depends on the quality of the said trailer park.
Now, this would be a really special trailer park where you would find Snake. Now, she explained that Snake was a tenant always late with rent, so when he offered to pay a week in advance, she seized the moment and took this check.
Yes, it was a windfall for her.
The manager recognized a photo of Daryl. He recalled Snake hosting a party in August, and Daryl had been asked to move his car, a red Nova with a black top. After the party, Snake disappeared. He was known to drive a blue Harley with California plates, and they also said Snake had allegedly gone to Mississippi Like after he had had this party, he just up and left and went to Mississippi.
See, this would have been a great place to start the investigation, right? Because now you have a very hot lead.
A snack?
Yeah.
Well, in a 72 red Chevy Nova with a black top, I mean, one, that's a hot car.
Yeah.
It's a memorable car, and there probably aren't lots of those cars around.
Right.
Right? So I think you definitely would remember that vehicle. Now, after a while, the manager said Snake returned to the trailer park with the Nova. Snake had told the manager he had gotten the car in a drug deal, and that's when he paid rent with traveler's checks.
Okay. I mean, it all makes sense. I like how open he's able to be with his landlord.
I traded a couple joints and got this car.
Yeah, I trafficked a few girls, bought that car. What the fuck? I'll be like, I would be listening to this and be like, you know what? I don't think I want you living in my trailer park, bro. Seriously.
This trailer park sounds completely shady and sketchy.
Yes.
No one knew Snake's real name, but said he often rode with the pagan motorcycle gang, and they thought he was a member.
Okay.
Bob was able to locate Snake's real name. Finally, it's John Cox Jr.
I would have went by John Cox.
I told you this before we started, Dylan, that I feel like Snake was a nickname he gave to himself. Like, hey, everybody call me Snake.
Yeah. And those are the ones that are hard to get. Nicknames hard to get it to stick, you know?
When you make it up yourself.
Because a real nickname is you kind of, sometimes you don't even remember how it started. You know what I mean? People just start calling you whatever for whatever reason. And other people gave you that nickname and it just stuck. Right?
Yes.
So you told me a story of a guy that you knew of who tried to nickname himself.
Yeah, he did.
But what nickname did he want?
He wanted everybody. So he was part of a biker club. And so I knew him just through some friends. I'll say that. And he wanted everyone to call him Cash.
Oh, okay. That's a pretty good nickname.
Like, yo, y'all call me Cash or whatever. And they refused and started calling him Yak. And he's like, why do y'all call me that? And then they just kept, it bothered him. So then they just kept doing it.
Yeah.
And he could never figure out why they started calling him that. But then the name stuck and no one would call him Cash.
But everybody
he got a vest and put Cash on it and nobody calls him that.
They're like, Yak, what are you doing with that vest on?
Yeah, it was pretty funny at the time.
And that's what happens when you try to nickname yourself.
Because we all laughed at him bro, a nickname is sort of organic, you know?
Yes.
Someone gives it to you or there's a reason why they call you that. It's not something you just name yourself most of the time. Like I said, no one knew Snake's real name, but Bob was able to find John Cox Jr. And I mentioned he was a pagan. We got to talk about this, Dylan. So in the 70s, the pagans and the outlaws fiercely controlled Daytona Beach. And we have had other stories with we've had other cases involving outlaws and motorcycle gangs.
And there's a lot of stories about the Romans fighting the pagans.
Hell's Angels.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Romans fighting the pagans.
It's true.
These gangs had an intense rivalry. The pagans started moving to Maryland to escape the outlaws in Florida. Both gangs were kind of involved in running guns and drugs. There was a lot of violence. That's one of the reasons, like I said, the pagans kind of started moving out because there was so much violence. Murders.
Yeah, when these
people just getting the shit kicked out of them.
When these clubs would truly go at it, as that one episode we did about the motorcycle gangs around Charlotte, it was just it's gang violence. It's no different than
it was the Hell's Angels. Clubhouse
and outlaws too, right? But and the outlaws, it seems like from what I've read and seen about them over the years, they were pretty rough. You know, they meant business.
Well, I think they all did.
Well, yeah.
I mean, those 1%ers are not to be trifled with.
No.
Right? Bob found out that Snake was wanted by drug enforcement, state police, Daytona police, and the FBI for possession and illegal sale of firearms. He had a reputation around town for being a psychopath. And on top of that, he was a pagan. Snake was fully capable of murder. Cox had a long criminal history spanning back 10 years. Drug arrests, breaking and entering, gun possessions, assaults, like you name it. He's been arrested for these things.
It's almost like this guy should be in jail.
It's almost like he doesn't need to be on the streets. So Bob goes down to the beach asking about Snake. He offered money to anyone who was willing to give up Snake's location, but no one cooperated. I mean, as you can imagine, a private eye in a suit.
Right.
He was described as looking like his name is Bob, but he looked like Bob Newhart.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that's not going to help either.
No. So, and people are like, who are you, a narc? Kind of thing.
And Snake's like, don't step on me.
He also visited biker bars where his presence was definitely unwanted, and some of the bikers let him know this by beating the shit out of him and kicking him out of the bar. However, he goes to this one biker bar and he realizes, like, I can't do this on my own.
I'm not going to get anywhere.
I'm not going to get anywhere.
Right.
I need to find somebody who is plays the part or looks the part that can get me information. He has a genius plan. We're going to get to it.
He needs a proxy.
Yeah. So he's in a parking lot one night and sees a lone biker and is able to get this biker, since they're alone, to provide some information about Snake. According to this, kind of anonymous source, Snake had hit a, quote, heavy lick, then disappeared. Since Snake was a pagan, Bob realized, like I said, he was going to have better luck maybe talking to the outlaws, their rival gang. Their hatred of the pagans might encourage one of them to turn into like an informant, especially if it meant taking down a rival gang member. And Snake seemed like a special kind of dirtbag. Snake's companions, he learned, were named Spider and Fat Man.
I thought it would be like Josh and Alan.
Spider's alias was Earl Smith, but law enforcement will later discover that his real name is Theodore Bassett.
Oh, I wonder why he didn't go by that.
Ted.
So Spider, Snake, and Fat Man.
Yeah.
Okay.
An outlaw told Bob that Snake was, quote, a real bad dude who carried 2 loaded guns in his waistband, another pistol in his boot, and an ice pick.
Damn.
Yeah. Snake's friend Spider, this is interesting, Dylan, happened to be sitting in jail. They pay him a visit in jail.
And ironically enough, he was a very accomplished knitter. He can knit like no other.
Spider admitted that he had not seen Snake since August. He said he did remember seeing Snake with a red Chevy Nova. Spider also recalled that Snake had lots of traveler's checks. Snake had hit a lick, and word on the street is he might have hurt someone. When Snake left Daytona in mid-August, he headed for Mississippi, where his wife lived. Snake was driving the red Nova when he left town. So they're getting some information out of Spider. Maybe not a lot of information, but it's more than they had.
Oh, yeah. I think it's after weeks and months, if you're Bob, even though you're having a bit of a hard time, you have to be kind of excited about this line of investigation.
Faye, Jim's mother, I told you before, she was writing, like anyone who would listen. She had written the governor of Michigan and the governor of Florida multiple letters. So after some time has passed, the governor of Michigan takes an interest in this case. Florida's governor, of course, was contacted. Michigan's governor called him up and told him the story, and we have these 2 young men from my state, good boys, missing.
Yeah, he's like, hey, Florida, Michigan here.
Yeah. Florida's governor then pressured the local police department to solve the case. Like, drop whatever you're doing. This needs to be solved. Like, someone needs to be on this full time.
And back in the day, you could reach out and kind of get somewhere trying to talk to your congressperson or, governor or something like that.
You still can.
Well, you still can, but I think
I've reached out to representatives and senators from my state.
You got a hold of them?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have you know, one of our local House of Reps would send me a birthday card.
Damn.
That's right.
What'd your letter say?
Well, I just needed help with certain things.
Ah, I see.
Yeah. None of your business, Dylan.
You know what?
You don't need to know my life.
You can write that seated representative again then.
Well, I don't know. like I was not getting anywhere. Like, for example, I wasn't really getting anywhere with the VA. Like when I first started trying to be able to go to the VA, and was like getting no help, and my local veterans officer wasn't really doing anything for me. And so after kind of just hitting roadblocks and feeling like no one's listening to me and not really knowing what to do, someone suggested, well, why don't you write someone? And I did. And this person's office called me, and within a couple of days I had an appointment, and guess what? They helped me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you have taught me that the modern day equivalent, a strongly worded email,
Yeah.
can get you somewhere.
It can.
Because that's a paper trail. I mean, it really is.
Bob Brown was weeks ahead of the Daytona Beach police in the investigation, and he had more leads than the police had. So, of course, Officer Mickelson, that was assigned to the case, kind of wanted to team up with Bob.
Well, of course.
Get some of the info that Bob had.
Now, sometimes cops view PIs as kind of like cops who didn't make it or not good enough to be a cop, and there's kind of that pissing contest. But, I mean, it's really smart on this guy's part to be like, hey, this guy's been investigating this for weeks. Why wouldn't you want to collaborate with him?
And I mean, Bob knew that if it was solved or they figured out what had happened, that the local police would get the credit for the work he had done. But he wasn't he didn't have an ego about it. But yeah, it sounds like the Daytona police were willing to work with Bob. Bob was willing to share information with them, so they kind of were able to team up. They decided to visit Spider again in jail, and he provided additional information. He said he saw Jim and Daryl at Snake's trailer back in August. Snake met the boys at the Thunderbird Motel. He invited them back to his trailer for a, quote, pot party.
A pot party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they're just going to smoke some pot.
Like
It's a pot party.
You want to go smell my trailer and smoke some pot?
No. Another lead came in when a tow truck driver in Mississippi remembered helping a man driving a red Chevy Nova with a black top. 72. The car had Michigan plates. The tow truck driver described Snake to a T.
Yeah, he had guns in his waistband.
As
and
the driver.
Gun in his boot.
And said he watched the man head south after he fixed his battery cable. Finally, Bob was able to obtain a photo of Snake. Again, he's been in the system. He was able to get a mugshot. Realizing the only way, like I mentioned before, that he was going to get ahead in this biker world was that he needed to hire some kind of informant, someone who had no association with the gangs, but could infiltrate the scene, or maybe even somebody who did have an association and could get in and get information. So one night he's hanging out in front of a biker bar, and he sees a man he describes as a grizzly bear. This huge dude, like a giant, big guy, big red beard, looks like, a monster of a man. And Bob approaches him and asks, "Are you in a biker gang?" And the guy's response is, "I am the biker gang."
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So Bob makes a deal with this guy. If you go in, the guy's name is Larry, by the way.
Larry the biker.
Larry the grizzly bear. If Larry would go into the bar and find out some information about Snake, Bob would pay him $200. Larry is like, hell yeah, I'll take the money. Larry marches into the bar demanding to know where Snake was. Like, he walks in and is like, "Where's Snake?"
Damn.
Nobody would answer him, and he asked again, "Does anyone know where Snake is?" When no one helped, Larry marched outside and started kicking their bikes over.
Oh.
About 15 bikers poured out of the bar. Larry lit a cigarette close to a gas tank and said, quote, "They're all going to go up in one big bang unless someone tells me where Snake is."
Damn.
Yeah. Nervously, they told him he should ask Fat Man. The Fat Man was the only person who would know Snake's whereabouts. Somehow, and I'm not going to say he beat it out of somebody, but somehow Larry was able to get Fat Man's location.
Okay.
Right?
They were like, "Look, dude, Fat Man lives down the road. Just leave us alone."
Well, they told him, Fat Man's at this other bar. He goes down there. He finds Fat Man, roughs him up a little.
Damn.
Demanding to know where's Snake. Fat Man offered up, "He's in Tampa, man."
So Larry is really just a no-nonsense,
Muscle.
scary freaking dude
Yeah.
who's intimidating other scary dudes.
Yes.
Damn.
He is the biker gang. Snake was driving a truck for a company in Tampa, living in a trailer park with his wife, and had gifted her the Chevy Nova. According to Fat Man, Snake was at Bayfront Trailer Park. Bob was able to verify that John Cox did live there at Lot 40. At the trailer, the Nova was parked in the driveway without plates. Bob was able to lift the hood and check the serial number. It was Daryl's car.
I mean, how? You're just going to gift your girlfriend or your wife a car from a guy you killed.
Yeah.
Or two guys that you killed. I mean, that's pretty insane.
Bob had enough evidence now to call the local police because Snake had at least stolen a car and was possibly guilty of grand theft. I mean, at the very least, you know.
And he also knows that Snake paid at a previous residence with one of the traveler's checks.
Yes.
So this is pretty good evidence.
Snake's wife is named Sandra Cox, and she arrived back at the trailer when Bob and police are now there. She's drunk, and she's with another man.
Oh.
She tells police that Snake had given her this car as a birthday present in mid-August. Snake had driven to Mississippi where she was staying with her mama, picked her up in the car. They's gonna make it work.
So you like his car, baby?
Yep.
It's yours.
They decided to, go back to Florida. The crime lab towed this car in for analysis. The next step was going to the trucking company, trying to find Snake. His wife was like, I don't know when he's going to be back. And they found out that he was on a 3-week run. He would not return until December 11th. This was unfortunate. They got to wait. Another interview with Spider was revealing. He admitted to seeing the boy's room key for the Thunderbird in the Nova, implying that he had been inside the stolen car. Spider told Bob not to look too hard for those boys because they were dead.
Damn.
Now let's talk a little bit about Snake. The Snake. He ran away at 12 and ended up in Daytona Beach. John started selling drugs and became addicted. At 17, he joined the Pagans. When he met 18-year-old Bassett, they had become fast friends. So at this point, Snake is 30 and Ted Bassett, Spider, is only 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So big age difference. Ted also had a tough childhood. He was born from a rape. His mother and stepfather were very abusive. And by the time he had gone to live with his grandparents, Ted was already showing sociopathic traits. While living with his grandparents, they enrolled him in Catholic school, where Ted was labeled a follower and sort of became known as the punching bag of the dorm. Cox was considered the smarter of the pair and seemed to dominate the younger Spider. Now, investigators learned from Spider that he'd been the one to lure the boys to this pot party.
Oh, okay.
We're going to hear multiple stories from these guys.
Okay.
But I think the final story is probably the closest to the truth we'll ever get. So Spider said he'd been the one to lure the boys. Snake had wanted to get something going, meaning we need to get some quick money. In August, he needed to get some fast money. And with that, Spider was sort of just looking for opportunities. And quickly, he spotted the boys and realized, and he called them pigeons, by the way. He spotted these boys and realized they were probably more naive than he even guessed. Spider followed the boys to their room. He offered them, hey, you want to go to a party? They were into it. They went to change clothes. He followed them to their room. Spider noticed that Daryl had an expensive camera, and that's when it kind of clicked that the boys probably had cash, and he thought they were rich kids.
Right.
They got this nice car, got this flashy camera.
And they're really just hardworking kids.
Yeah.
Who have,
worked hard and
bought things for themselves.
That's when he told Daryl, hey, man, before we go to this party, let's drive over to my buddy's house. We're going to pick him up and take him to the party, too. Once they're in the car, Snake suggested they go to his place. So they end up driving to a McDonald's. I think I skipped over that part. They met at a McDonald's. That's where Snake hangs out because he sells drugs. So everybody can find him there at the McDonald's selling drugs.
And get a fresh
apple pie.
Hamburger.
Yeah. So they go, instead of going to the house, they go pick him up at this McDonald's. And once they get Snake in the car, that's when he's like, hey, let's go to my place. Daryl drove to the trailer. Snake went inside to get party favors.
Some pot. You have to have a lot of pot for a pot party.
He was like, I'm going to go in and grab some party favors. And when he came out, he was carrying a brown paper bag. As soon as he sat down in the backseat of the car, he pulled out a .25 automatic pistol, which he handed to Spider, then kept a .38 revolver for himself. The men held the boys at gunpoint. Snake directed the boys to drive onto Highway 92, a deserted 2-lane road that crosses swampland and scrub brush. This road also led down to Orlando. Now, with this new information, a warrant was issued for the arrest of John Cox. So when he arrives at the truck terminal, he is scooped up by law enforcement. They initially start with a charge of forgery for the traveler's checks.
Right. Something they can hold him on.
He had been charged with 8 counts of forgery related to signing the traveler's checks. Bail was set at $42,000. Snake was assigned a court-appointed attorney. Immediately, the two start working on a defense for double homicide, but there had been no mention of murder during the arrest. But he immediately starts telling his lawyer, like, we have to craft a defense for a double homicide.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Now, the families in Michigan who had spent weeks believing their sons were dead were not prepared for the news that came with Snake's arrest, which is your boys are most definitely dead.
Right. You're still, I'm sure, clinging to that hope that maybe it's just some big misunderstanding or, that they may be hurt or something like that, but they'll turn up safe or at least come home in some capacity.
Now, when they had spoken to Spider, he'd been offered a vague deal by the state's attorney. Like if you talk, we could make a deal with you. You could get substantially less time, maybe get immunity, maybe the death penalty's off the table, which of course had him all freaked out, like death penalty. So he's ready to accept it. Snake, who had previous experience, was prepared to talk, but the state's attorney was willing to make a deal with whoever talked first. And the thing was, Spider wanted to wait for his attorney to arrive before he sat down to give his spiel. But Snake seizes the opportunity. Law enforcement devised a plan to bring the two men in at the same time and seated them in adjacent interview rooms because they wanted Spider and Snake to see each other before the interviews. A tactic,
That's a common tactic used till this day.
Snake and Spider were told separately that the first to talk to law enforcement would get a good deal. After some back and forth, Spider agreed to speak without an attorney. He told investigators he was, quote, scared to death. But it was too late for Spider. Snake had already given his version of what happened to Jim and Daryl that hot August night. Snake said that someone known as Mike had brought Jim and Daryl to the McDonald's where he was hanging out on August 12th of 1978. Another man named Robert McDonald, or Buford, was also there. Mike, with no last name, approached Snake, saying the boys wanted to buy some marijuana. Snake got into the car with Mike, Daryl, and Jim to look for marijuana. They finally gave up and went to Snake's trailer. The next day, the boys stopped by again, and Snake agreed to go help them find drugs. The drug dealer they tracked down wouldn't accept traveler's checks, so Snake offered to lend Jim $200 cash in exchange for those checks.
Right, and these are two kids known to never drink or smoke pot, but now they're out of town for the first time, and they've decided to start smoking pot.
You're going to get so many stories. Snake is quite creative. Snake would keep the Nova as collateral until the boys paid him back the money that he had loaned them for these drugs.
Why wouldn't they just go cash some traveler's checks?
Dylan, that just makes way too much sense.
What? Oh, here's my cherry-ass Nova that I bought myself.
Hang on to my nice car.
Yeah, sure.
The boys promised to return with the money, but never did. And since the loan was never repaid, Snake felt the car legally belonged to him.
Well, yeah, it was collateral on a drug loan.
Yeah.
I don't see the problem here. And he pulls out some documents written in crayon.
Obviously, investigators knew the story was nonsense, They threatened Snake with the electric chair, and that's when he admitted the first story was made up and offered to tell where they could find the boys.
This is the real truth this time.
Yeah. Okay, so this is his other version. Spider had taken the boys to McDonald's where Snake joined them, met up with them. They planned to get the boys high and rob them. Somehow they ended up near the Strickland Rifle Range in Volusia County. Snake didn't offer up specifics, if it had been him or Spider who had been responsible for what happened next. After the boys were robbed, they removed their belts at gunpoint. The belts were used to tie their hands behind their backs, and they were placed in the Daryl's trunk. They drove back to the motel. Spider went into the boys' room and emptied it out. After trying to figure out what to do with their victims, they landed on Indian Lake Road off of 92. He claims that that when he opened the trunk, they were dead.
Ah.
Yeah. Snake offered to show them where the boys are. Again, I just opened the trunk and they were dead.
Well, yeah.
I don't know what happened.
I mean, it's not my fault. I didn't tie them up and put them in the trunk.
So at this point, detectives escort Snake to Indian Lake Road, where it kind of narrowed down to a trail. It was almost described as like a fire trail. Pretty narrow. A bunch of scrub brush and tall grass.
Right, just for limited
around.
access to the area if they need to get in there, right? Not like a public used frequented trail.
Snake points to an area in the brush saying, "We put them right there." Bones. Bones wrapped in a blue blanket. Dozens of bones lay there.
Damn.
Dental records had to be sent from Michigan to positively identify the boys.
Damn, they decompose that quickly?
Well, and I'm sure animals carried parts of them away.
What's that,
as
Florida
well.
heat and humidity?
Yeah. And this is out in kind of, sounds like swampy scrub brush, not a great area.
No.
When Spider realized detectives had gotten the bodies, that's when he wanted to talk. Spider's story was much the same, except when they got the boys out to the scrub brush, Spider said he couldn't shoot Daryl, so Snake grabbed a tree limb, which he used to bludgeon him. Daryl did not die. Spider took over the beating, and finally Snake used his .38 to further bludgeon Daryl. And they just kept saying, he won't die, he won't die.
Jeez.
The whole time Jim is trying to comfort his friend, hang on, buddy, hang on. Then they turn their force on Jim. They beat him up. They make him sign the traveler's checks. Then they get the boys in the trunk of the car. Spider said they gassed them using a hose to connect to the tailpipe. They could hear Daryl kicking the hose kind of out of the trunk. So Snake took a knife and stabbed through the seam of the trunk. And that's when Daryl stopped kicking. For the next 2 hours, the men sat on a nearby log until they believed the boys were dead.
My God.
Once they had been gassed, they were removed from the trunk and left in a clearing. The blanket came from the car, and it was used to cover their bodies. But by this time, Snake has already made a deal. So Spider's kind of just out in the wings, right? Snake would plead guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder, which meant 2 life sentences, and he was able to avoid the death penalty with this deal. But Spider wanted to go to trial. After months in jail, he convinced himself that a jury would sympathize with his childhood and Snake's influence over him.
Okay.
With a 2-hour taped confession, Spider had proved himself guilty more so than any prosecutor could.
Well, yeah, and I'm honestly surprised that Spider didn't distance himself, which often is the case in a situation like this. You know, they'll put it kind of all on the other person or the other co-defendants. And but no, I mean, and I really, do you believe this is the honest version, the most honest version?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
After a trial in which the defense called no witnesses, the jury reached a verdict in less than an hour. Ted Bassett, or Spider, or Earl Smith, whatever alias he's using at the time, was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. He was handed down the death penalty at sentencing.
Damn, he deserves to die. And so, well, I know he had a bad childhood, and, you know, you have this older guy and all that, but they're both pieces of shit.
In 1988, Spider's attorneys appealed his sentence, arguing that his terrible childhood, you know, being the product of a rape, and that he'd witnessed his stepfather's suicide, was responsible for the role in the murders. This trauma.
Okay.
For his role. His death sentence was overturned, and they resentenced him to life in prison. The aftermath had substantial impacts on the Boucher and Barber families. Jim's father, Roy, became ill in the wake of his son's death and never quite recovered, like, his health. And by 1992, he passed away. The Barbers, who didn't want any more painful memories, moved away from Metamora in the mid-1980s, just up and left. And, I mean, these poor families are just...
It ruined both those families.
Yeah.
It's so sad. It's terrible.
It's really sad.
All because your sons just want to go have a good time.
Jim's little brother, John, like, cried all the time, was super upset. It was like the only relative or family member of the Bushers that wasn't affected was his little sister, who was like a baby.
Well,
or, you know, 18 months old. So she didn't remember him.
But she was still affected, you know,
yeah,
from just the trauma in the family.
The mother was, you know, the mother, Faye, said that having this little baby, this little toddler around kind of helped lighten things up. And that, you know, the family really took joy in her. But that she was really the only one that didn't remember him. And,
it wasn't devastated directly.
Yes, but everybody else was.
Damn. It's horrible.
It's really sad.
And just
I told you it was really sad. I mean, the first night they get there.
Yeah. As soon as they get there that same night, and they got there kind of late. I mean, what the hell? They probably wasn't even at their hotel for an hour or two.
What are the chances?
Just somebody looking for a potential victim.
Just wrong place, wrong time.
I mean, it's just
wrong person.
Luck of the draw, the bad luck of the draw. I mean, it's just terrible.
It is terrible. And I mean, I'm sure it serves as a cautionary tale for a lot of young people going on trips, you know. Got to be vigilant.
It's true. And that's...
Well, I guess, hell, we should all be vigilant because this kind of thing could happen to any of us, really, if you think about it.
Well, yeah, we were one time had a little Airbnb not far outside of Charlotte. We're going to go to a White Zombie show, and we were out just walking around. Remember that?
It was
Rob Zombie. We were out just walking around, kind of late at night.
Yeah, it was like a little kind of downtown.
Yeah,
area.
kind of very small, kind of a small townish feel to that area.
We were walking around because there were all these really beautiful big old houses.
Yeah.
Like Victorian style and just really gorgeous. A lot of them had been, you know, remodeled and updated and were just stunning. And we were kind of just walking around looking at some of those beautiful homes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not up to no good, just walking around being architecture nerds.
Yeah.
And a carload of Utes.
The two Utes
passed by us and said something out the window. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. They might have asked if we wanted anything or something like that. And I was like, no, thanks. But I could just tell they had a vibe of...
They were like ready to do some crime. Honestly.
No, for real. And normally I'm not a timid person. Neither of us are. But just something told me to not say anything back to these people, or we just kind of
quickly scurried
across
the street.
the other direction.
Yeah.
And there was just ill intent in that car, and I had no doubt about it. You could feel the aura, the vibe, that if I'd run my mouth or something, that they would have piled out on us, and Lord knows what would have happened.
And I've actually had that happen before, where I'm just walking, with my companion, and 4 guys jumped out of a car and started attacking us, trying to rob us.
Yeah, and I don't care who you are, 4 or 5, even if they're young people in their teens, hell, 4 or 5, 13 or 14-year-olds can whoop your ass if they're properly motivated.
Yeah, I mean, I was
mean enough.
Young. I was like in my early 20s and probably weighed, like 100 pounds soaking wet in a dress and a pair of like platform heels, being attacked by these men.
Right.
Like somebody swung at me, hit me in the face. Like, I jumped up and just started running. Like, my first thought was to try to help my friend, but then I was like, these guys could have a gun.
Right.
They could pull me in the car and rape me. They could kill me. I've got to get out of here, right? So that flight instinct kicked in, and I ran and got help. But, I mean, and there again, it was just something innocent. Like, we'd gone across the street to eat at a restaurant and had come back, and we're in his neighborhood, in front of his house, basically, when this happened.
Yeah. I mean, you just never know.
You never know.
Random violence can find you at any moment. And honestly,
got to keep your head on a swivel.
that's why I'm just, you might call it paranoid. I just kind of stay out of the way, man.
Well, as they say, Dylan, strawberry jam but my Glock don't.
That's right.
Yeah, it's scary.
Jelly might spread, but these legs don't. That's always been my saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is a lie.
It's what?
Maury has proven that is a lie.
Oh, no, it's not true.
We know it's a lie.
All right. I seen a little clip the other day, speaking of Maury. Remember when they used to have people on there that was afraid, had a fear of something?
I've seen this clip. I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, and they would, of course, introduce a person or start talking about their phobia, their fear. And it was always something very strange. It wasn't the usual spiders, snakes, heights, whatever.
Spiders and snakes. I'm afraid of these spiders and snakes.
But it was weird shit. And in this clip, the woman was scared of olives.
Green olives.
And, they bring her out there, and she's like, oh, God, please, no. And she's looking around, and he's just like, no, it's okay, honey. And the clip is like, Maury was a psycho. And he's like, it's okay, it's okay.
They bring out the biggest jar of green olives from Sam's Club.
Dude, he's like, bring out the olives. And it's like a freaking 2-gallon jug of olives. I've never even seen a jar of olives this big.
I want that jar of olives.
And the woman, of course, runs screaming right through the back of the studio. And of course, the camera person's hot on their ass.
Why would you be,
I don't know. That afraid?
Afraid of olives?
That afraid?
It's weird.
Okay, well, thank you, Heather. That was truly a sad story. It's ridiculous. And both those people should have been put to death. But I get how the system works sometimes when you have limited evidence. But did you have limited? Look, let's be honest. If Kohberger can get a fucking deal, anybody can get a deal, right?
Well, I think in some of these cases, this is an example of a case where they were willing to make a deal because they wanted to recover the bodies.
Yeah, I get
for
that.
the families.
I get that.
And a lot of times, families are okay with someone cutting a deal because they don't want to go through a trial. They don't want to hear the details of what happened to their loved one. It's too hard. It's too, it's too much. And this way, the person is, being punished.
Yeah, but this isn't a sweetheart deal. Obviously, it's certainly not.
2 life sentences, homeboy ain't getting out.
It's certainly not the deal that Jeffrey Epstein got the first time he was convicted of sex trafficking, when he was allowed to basically run the jail.
Release the list.
I'm sorry, Smepstein. I shouldn't have said the word.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Watch out or you'll get Epsteined.
Ah, yeah.
Which they'll just take you away and put you back on a private island.
Yeah, out the tunnel.
At this point, can we just admit that our entire government is just full of pedophiles, right?
It certainly
the
seems...
cover up is across the board.
Well, it could be pedophile adjacent at the very least, right? Come on. What do you got to do?
There's got to be dirt on all the people who are in agreement to not release this shit.
I don't, without getting too far into that.
The world is not accepting this, man. Every time I go online, people are outraged over this shit.
Well, there's no way that at this level, and of course it is strange how a math teacher, obscure math teacher, goes from
with no certification or anything.
Yeah, no training or knowledge of anything, no degrees.
Yeah.
He's, portrayed as some wonder kid, but obviously I don't think so. Goes from that to one of the richest people in the world, honestly. And one of the most well-connected people, period. That's very strange. But anyway, all that bullshit and Ghislaine Maxwell
Why is she in prison if there's no list?
is the only person in jail, and Epstein offs himself, and he's only been in jail for a minute. And the last time,
And there's no evidence, obviously.
And there's even less
how
evidence.
How would he be convicted?
there's even less evidence this time.
We
than
should
the first.
apologize to Epstein. We've all been calling him like a predator and talking shit about him this whole time, and clearly there was nothing there.
There was no evidence. Him a billionaire, he doesn't wait to see what kind of deal or what his defense strategy is. He just offs himself. He can't handle it.
Yeah, because they scooped him up and have taken him somewhere else. He's intelligence.
I think he lives under Disney World.
I think he's
Disneyland.
a part of an intelligence agency, or maybe multiple.
He's down there with the cryogenic head of Walt Disney.
All the blackmail material.
Anyway, that was a little sweet icing on this episode. What are you going to do? It's weird, right? I don't think any rational person would think it's not weird.
I don't know. People will protest over a lot of stuff that I think is like sort of silly and a waste of time. But people aren't out in the streets demanding answers. I mean, to me, this is like something the American people, we should be out in the streets. Instead of fighting over like little frivolous shit and stuff that's not even happening, we should be out in the streets demanding fucking answers.
Yeah, but the baby version of that was we just sat through the weeks and weeks of the Diddy trial, and the only discussion there was just about Diddy and these, these lavish, insanely expensive sex parties.
But we don't know who was involved in the
But
sex
no
parties
one
either.
else was involved. No one else's name came up. It's funny how all that boxes and boxes of shit they took out of his house, and I know most people are going to say that was all baby oil. It couldn't all been baby oil. Sorry.
It was baby oil and pink fuzzy handcuffs.
Yeah, but I mean, come on. And then we see that he's probably going to do a couple more years in jail, and he'll be back to his own bullshit.
Man, they all in a club and we ain't in it.
Yep, George Carlin nailed it.
I'm glad we ain't in it.
I don't want to be in that club because I think that club's sticky.
I think that club's fucked up and evil and does some nasty shit that I don't want to know about.
All right.
But I think heads should roll.
Well, no, I think there should certainly be more accountability.
Bring back the guillotine.
Yes, in the public square.
Yeah.
And we're
Yeah.
not making any deals here, bud.
Drag the politicians to the public square and chop their heads off.
The death penalty is the only thing on the table.
Then we can have our own, like, Bastille Day or something. All right, Dylan. Thanks for sitting down today to discuss this sad case with me.
Thank you for having me, and can't wait to see can't wait for the wild and wacky funny case next week.
It's coming. It's coming, I promise.
We're going to need that, and can't wait for our midweek. That'll be fun. We'll get caught up on whatever else is happening out there. And thank you to our listeners. We really do love you. And, oh, yes,
Dylan's always thinking of you.
I am. I was told from some of the listeners that Outlander is a really good series.
Yes.
Not at all a soap opera.
Nope.
And that I need to check it out.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to start from the beginning.
I also had a few listeners who reached out about Outlander, and they all agree that Jamie Fraser's hot.
Oh, see.
So
That's
you should
what I'm
definitely
talking
watch
about.
it, Dylan. Check it
Okay.
out.
I'm going to get a kilt and start. I'm going to bring the kilt back.
You're not a Scot.
So? I identify as one.
It's cultural appropriation, Dylan.
All right. Until next time. And thank you to our patrons. We love you for the direct support.
You can
Can't
find
wait.
us at patreon.com/mountainmurderspodcast.
You can. Heather has a hot one in the oven for you guys as well.
Ad-free episodes.
That's right.
Bonus content.
Exclusives.
Bye.
Bye.